Welcome everyone to our first online event of the Designers in Space community. This is a very special day for us. Well, it's the first online event for us, but yeah, while we are having some more participants, we are having some amazing introductions here. I'll just quickly say what is the plan for today. So first of all, I'm going to quickly introduce what is Designers in Space community, what is this, who we are, and what is this all about, basically. Later, we are going to have a keynote from our amazing speakers. So that'll be around 35 minutes. And after that presentation, we will have some time for Q&A and time for discussion. So you're all very welcome to take part in that. And after this, we will have some more informal networking. So whoever wants to stay a bit longer, perhaps, you are very welcome to do so, and we can have some more informal chat after this formal part of the presentation and Q&A. Okay, so before we start, just some really basic housekeeping rules. This event is recorded, so just so everyone is aware, I hope it's fine with everyone. During the presentation, please keep yourself muted. There will be an opportunity to ask questions afterwards. So as I said, there will be discussion and Q&A. If you want to ask questions during the presentation, please use the chat or the Q&A section. So we'll be addressing that in the Q&A after the presentation, or just wait for the end and you can ask it yourself as well. And last but not least, please enjoy and I hope it will be very inspirational for everyone. And yeah, that we'll have fun as well. Okay, so very briefly, what is DiSCUSS and Designers in Space community? It's an initiative. It's pretty new. It just started last year, actually, to advocate for the strategic use of design within the space sector. Our aim and mission is basically to help transform the space sector by bringing a more coherent, user-centered, and sustainable design practices. And we want to, through that, create positive transformational services and products, bring real value to the users, and do it in a de-risked and faster way, and bring it to the market faster, which is so critical for new space and any transformation really in any industry. As a community, we bring together all the creative profiles and space professionals who share interest in space and belief in a strategic role of design. So as I said before, this is our first online event, but actually last year we had some offline in-person events as well. And most notably, we were in Barcelona on Service Design Days, giving a presentation to designers about space and the value on space. They can, benefit from space technologies in their work. And on the other hand, we were also at IAC in Paris, so the International Aeronautical Congress, one of the biggest conferences, I think the biggest conference in the space industry. So we were there talking about design to the space professionals. So we are sort of attacking the topic from both sides. So if in the future you go to any design or space events, perhaps you can meet there in person as well. So our mission is bringing together designers and space professionals, like in this sort of events, create opportunities for new projects and collaborations. We are advertising jobs. We have job board. We have a newsletter when we always put some recent job openings. So if you are looking for jobs in the space industry, you should subscribe to that. And if you are looking for designers to join your organization and you're working in space, also please do let us know. We can help you find the right profiles as well. We promote and increase visibility and the value of design and share knowledge, again, in events like this, and hopefully create some thought leadership, both within space and design domains. We also have Medium, so if you want to know more, we are regularly publishing articles, case studies, some reflections, examples on our Medium. And if you want to contribute, we are always open and we are looking for people who help us create this kind of content as well. So if you have a case study, interesting project you are working on, or you worked on in the past, and you want to share some reflections, please let us know. It could be anything from strategic design, service design, UX, UI, research, perhaps, I don't know, branding. If you did an interesting project on branding within the space industry and you want to share the process, that's also, very, very interesting for us. So please do reach out because you want to create this database of articles and case studies about design and space. And how to get involved? Well, first of all, I recommend you follow us on LinkedIn. So this is the most up-to-date source about all the communication and events and things going on. On Medium, you can follow or contribute, as I just mentioned. You can fill in a membership form, so that has a couple of questions, and then it enables you to subscribe to our newsletter with all the things that are inside. And we have also a WhatsApp group for the members, which is like an ongoing conversation that you can also join and participate in. So yeah, please feel free to get involved via any of these ways. I'll also later put up this slide after presentation, so you have it present. So don't worry if you don't catch it now. Okay, so with this part, I would like to introduce you already to our talk and our speakers. So welcome to Catherine and Joel. Now we have you here already. This is very cool to have them there, basically, because, you know, Catherine is the head of a user-centered design at Satellite Applications Catapult. She holds a master's degree in design at the Royal College of Arts. And then she worked at the RCA Helen Hamlin Center for Design for 8 years, helping organizations understand user needs and develop concepts for new products and services in response. Catherine had then worked for 3 years as a freelance designer and became a contractor to the Satellite Applications Catapult, working on the program of business design support. She joined as a permanent employee in 2019 and then has been part of the user-centered design ever since. In 2022, she transitioned from senior service designer to her current role as head of user-centered design. Welcome, Catherine. It's really great to have you here. And we also have Joel Friedman. Joel is head of innovation services and former head of user-centered design at the Satellite Applications Catapult as well. He has been working in the space sector for almost 10 years, and his current work focuses on building a UK-wide innovation network that leverages the power of space technology to support local, national, and international challenges, as well as drive economic growth. Joel has worked globally across academia, industry, and government using design thinking and systems innovation to explore how cutting-edge technologies can be applied to solve complex social, environmental, and industrial challenges. Joel is also one of the co-founders of the Designers in Space community, so I'm really glad to have you here as well, Joel. Welcome. And it's my pleasure to be your host today. I'm Aleksandra Kozawska. I'm a service designer and product director, also one of the co-founders of the Designers in Space community. We also saw more members here in this talk today as well. Delia, Alex, I see, I don't know if Charlie, Barbara, they're here as well. You can see them with the background. So yeah, super excited for this talk today. And also super excited because actually Catapult, for me personally, is an example of a successful user-centered design team, that embedded within a space organization that is actually changing the status quo and how things are done within the space industry in the UK. This year, they are actually celebrating 10th anniversary of the team creation. So congratulations, well done. And actually, I don't know, to my knowledge, they are one of the first user-centered teams, or perhaps, I don't know, even the first one in the space industry. So this is also very exciting to learn from you guys and, you know, hear your story and the challenges that you had along the ways and how you solved them. So I think without any further ado, Catherine, Joel, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ola. Okay, let me share my screen. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yeah, good. Okay. Well, thanks very much, Alexandra. That was a lovely introduction. So we're going to take you through a few things today. We're going to talk about who we are first, who's the Catapult, what do we do, and how we ended up with the design team in the first place, and then the evolving role of this team over our 10-year journey. And we're going to pepper the talk with project examples. So to start with, Satellite Applications Catapult. It's an independent, partly government-funded, not-for-profit technology and innovation company, which is focused on growing the space sector in the UK. And our mission is to innovate for a better world, empowered by space. As an organization, we have 3 ways that we do this. We look at sectors that could benefit from space technology and work with them to identify opportunities and open up new markets. And we explore where there are barriers to technological growth, for example, where a lack of access to facilities or equipment prevents innovation, or where existing policy and regulation is stifling the market, doesn't encourage it. And then finally, we connect to and work with businesses of all sizes to help them access the support they need to grow. So this whether it be from routes to market, to strategic advice, to design advice, technical support. And we currently focus on 4 areas of satellite technology. So we've got connectivity, enabling data transfer, access to information anywhere on the planet. So you're thinking about IoT, autonomous drone operations. Then we've got geospatial intelligence, which is all about sensing the Earth from space, monitoring changes, helping us to see patterns, for example, in deforestation, pollution, or water scarcity. Then there's enabling missions. This is all about how we get things into space in the first place, and then how we operate the satellites when they get there. And then more recently, this emerging area of beyond Earth operations. In-orbit servicing and manufacturing, space debris removal. Once the stuff of sci-fi, now real-life activities. And we apply these technologies to a vast number of areas and support the creation of applications spanning from transport to agriculture, our oceans to our infrastructure, our renewable energies, and our healthcare, both within the UK and further afield. And the last 10 years have been an incredibly exciting time to be working in the space sector as we've entered into what some call the 3rd space age. So to begin with, the first space age was full of prestige, governments spending huge amounts of money to leave orbit, start planting flags to show we could do it. The second space age was slightly more subversive, big industries starting to leverage space to deliver services that were embedded into our daily lives, but we might not necessarily notice them, such as Sky TV, weather reports, GPS, all the things we now can't think about living without. And then a new age began to dawn, unlocked by a series of changing characteristics. First of all, the cost of launch started coming down. The size and cost of satellites started to fall. Instead of something the size of a double-decker bus or washing machine, we had satellites the size of a small loaf of bread. Cloud computing meant we could store, process, and access data in ways they were previously impossible without a supercomputer. And satellite technology and data was suddenly opened up to us all. Google Earth showed us the world like we've never seen it before, and a new wave of entrepreneurs started to look at how space technology could be leveraged, and with them came new investment. But, and here is the area where our design approach becomes so important. The space sector has traditionally been led by technology development. Can we make it smaller? Can we do it in higher resolution? Can we have faster data transfer, better processing? And it can be so easy to follow on what we could do that we miss the chance to think about what we should do. And some of you might recognize this image of Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park, who is coming to the realization that sometimes you really should stop and think if you should. And this is where we, as a design team, have tried to embed a model that focuses not just on whether something is technically possible or commercially viable, but actually solves a real human need, or, I will add, a planetary need. This innovation sweet spot, as first defined by IDEO, is the core of our innovation culture.
But how did design first make its way into the catapult? Well, I'll say it started with a man called Sam Adlin, who was the head of business innovation and is now our CSO. He was a space scientist who did an MBA. And as part of that, he was exposed to designers from the Royal College of Art, specifically one called Dan Watson. And I've chosen this graphic because it actually looks quite a lot like he looked when he joined the catapult. What Sam saw was that these designers were great visual communicators who were comfortable in multidisciplinary environments. And so he recruited Dan for the setup phase of the catapult So this involved working out what a satellite applications catapult should actually do. Who was it for? What was the value? In Sam's own words, design helped the catapult define itself. And from there, he told Dan to hire a couple more designers and start a team, which is where I entered the catapult. Now, Sam was unsure about what the team would do, but he was certain that it was exactly the right type of innovative thinking that the catapult should have embedded. And I can't stress enough the value that having a vocal design advocate high up in the organization has had, especially because one of the first things we realized when we started working was that we were considered something between graphic designers, product designers, and something shiny to point at when we picked up our post-it notes and did exciting things that they could look at. So we realized quite early on that no one else was going to define what we should do. And if we didn't want to get inundated with PowerPoint slide decks to beautify, we needed to be proactive about what we wanted to work on. So we looked for a framework by which to measure ourselves and set our ambition. And for this, we found the Danish design ladder. For anyone unfamiliar, this is a representation of the different levels that organizations embrace design, ranging from no design at all to design as something that's done at the end to style products, then design underpinning the process of innovation, and up to design embedded in the very strategy of the business. We also like this extended version, which talks about design as a means of transforming communities and ultimately transforming whole sectors as part of national strategies. We were firmly planted on level 2 when we started. Whilst the design ladder was a good way of talking about our level of design to other designers, we also needed a means by which to describe the design process to non-designers. I'm not sure if this is still the taught visualization, but certainly, and I think Stuart, who was actually my old tutor at art school, is here so he can verify, the double diamond was the way we, the process by which design was explained to us, with the first half focusing on designing the right thing and the second half on designing the thing right. Now, we found this so useful that we actually had it stenciled on our office wall as a permanent feature for many years. And it's fair to say that people were often surprised to see that there was a whole process where designers could be useful before you had even determined what you were going to be building. And this in itself was a bit of a theme that would repeat itself over the years. The point in projects at which design would actually get brought in to support, and the fight we had to kind of position ourselves earlier and earlier in the process. So we'd like to talk next you through a very small selection of some of our past activities, cut down to articulate our journey and some of the lessons that we've learned. One of the first projects we were given was Satellites for Everyone. As everyone knows, if you use the number 4 instead of spelling it out, it becomes much more relatable. And we were asked to create materials to help people understand the capabilities of satellites in order to get them to engage with our organization. Now, I think some people were slightly surprised when we didn't start by interviewing a whole range of satellite technology experts to get information, but instead took most of the organization through a process of identifying different user profiles of the people we might want to target, trying to understand their objectives, their ambitions, their levels of knowledge, and then starting to capture and shape information so that we could target collateral at them. Now, this helped us set a precedent that it didn't really matter what you were going to ask us to do. The first thing we would do is try and work out who it was for and why you wanted to do it. Seeing the ways in which we brought together people within the organization to think creatively, the design team was then brought in to help design our company strategy days. So we were given briefs from the executive team, like, we want the company to think about the ways all the teams interact to reach our targets. And then we were given free rein to create activities. And over the years, these have ranged from performance pieces to app development competitions and building the entire catapult out of Lego. Lego has been a tool that we have come back to time and time again, as it's a fantastic way to get people to build entire ecosystems, thinking about how each part links together and being able to literally build on each other's ideas. It unlocks a creative part of people's brain that is often put in a box once they grow past teenagehood. So not only did these activities help the rest of the organization get more familiar with the creative approaches of our internal design team, but they cemented our team's position as a key resource when developing and disseminating internal company strategy. Another key turning point for us was being put in a room with a startup or small business and encouraged to help them. At first, it was a bit like an awkward first date where we were partnered with the Catapult's internal business strategy team, sort of pumped up MBA graduates who used terms like lean startup, agile methodology, value proposition, and MVP. Like many first dates, it can be hard to know what direction it would take. Perhaps unsurprisingly, we quickly realized that despite the fact that they always had their shirts buttoned up and tucked in, we had more in common than we'd first imagined. They focused on understanding customer pain, testing ideas early and failing fast, building your business around the real value that you could bring. They also had the skills and approaches to go beyond designing a good product or service to packaging it in a sustainable and scalable business model. Lean startup and design thinking were a match made in heaven. Together, we developed a business support methodology that continues in an evolved state 10 years later. And we even created a guide and toolkit for how to run these types of sessions. In fact, the partnership of designers and business strategists was one that was repeated in most of our research projects too. And they had a similar complaint about being brought in late as we did. You know, if you design and build something and then bring people in to think about the business model, you're going to have a bad time. Probably one of the greatest examples of an impactful project where we were brought in quite late was a project called IPP Malaysia. Now, this was part of the UK Space Agency's International Partnership Programme aimed at funding UK space capability to solve global challenges. The Catapult had bid as part of a large consortium and had been awarded funding for a project that spanned 3 major challenge areas, where it was felt space technology could play a part in the solution and working with the Malaysian government. The project was dubbed ESOS, the Earth and Sea Observation System, and the areas we were looking at were flooding, marine, oil pollution, and illegal deforestation. To address them, our organisation and the consortium wanted to support the creation of one platform that would deliver multiple solutions, all using a combination of free satellite data along with other data to give actionable insights for improved decision-making. So this involved creating 3 consortiums, one to address each challenge, and tackling 3 separate in-country stakeholder groups that each spanned government, private sector, and military. This was a big task for a design team, except they hadn't actually included the design team in the proposal. We were asked a week before the first research trip to give a talk to the consortium at large on their first work package, which was requirement capture, specifically how they should approach this. Needless to say, we were slightly shocked, but we put together a presentation outlining different research methodologies, interviews, workshops, and how you might analyze and synthesize your outputs. Following that talk, there were some very serious faces, there were some hushed conversations, and within 24 hours, they had asked us to come out with them to Malaysia and lead the process. We needed to quickly understand the current levels of knowledge within the consortium. And so we spent the next few days locked in a room with the different groups, mapping out their current knowledge of the processes, stakeholders, and identifying where the gaps were. The purple bubbles you can see on the screen were the unknowns. And as you can see there were a few. So these became the fundamental building blocks of our in-country research strategy. We were also told we would only have 5 days in country. So 1 day to visit Operations Centre and 3 days of parallel workshops where every stakeholder would just be sitting in a room together. And then finally a day for any other meetings that might come up. So we knew it was going to be tight. We also realized we only had 2 designers and 3 areas to cover. So we actually deputized one of our business development leads as a designer. We bought him a pack of Post-it notes and some Muji pens, and we gave him a crash course in design approaches. I think he may be here this evening. If he's not, he's going to be watching the recording. So hi, Al, you did a great job. So we were glad of having that opportunity in country to go and see the systems that were being used to understand the existing capabilities. You know, we had engineers on the project who wanted to build this all singing, all dancing system. And we had to make sure that we were considering what capability already existed and how our system could link to theirs, either feeding information in or drawing it out. The next day, we each took on a room full of stakeholders and carried out our workshops. My area was marine pollution. We mapped out the information and activity journey between each stakeholder group, identifying what critical information needed to be captured and shared in order for each stakeholder to carry out their activities and identify what challenges needed to be overcome. So this helped us to identify where our service could provide the most value and how to ensure that it fit into existing activities. And interestingly, this also appeared to be one of the first times that all of these organizations had been in a room together. So that in itself proved to be massively useful. We designed wireframes based on functionality that emerged from our research. And one of the biggest challenges in marine pollution was that oil spills had to be detected before they could be addressed. So this required a boat to happen to go past, to see them and actually report them as well. By the time that happened, an oil spill may have spread massively and the boat responsible may be long gone. So we wanted to use satellite imagery to identify oil on the water as quickly as possible by looking for it on a regular basis, and then use weather and ocean data to model where it would go and what coastline was at risk. Now, during a bike ride around Oxford, the project's artificial intelligence expert was struck by inspiration and realized you could use those same ocean and weather models run backwards to track where the oil spill may have come from and cross-reference that against boats that were in the area at the likely time of the spillage in order to identify who might be responsible. So our research helped us understand not just what technology could do, but how the insights of that technology could be presented and used in order to make them as useful as possible. So we tested prototypes with users in order to improve usability and find the right ways to present complex information. From inception to prototype, it was, I think, about a 2-year project, and it faced a whole load of other challenges because of its length, such as changes in governments, ending of project funding, and having to find commercial customers. It didn't help that following the development of the flood detection tool, Malaysia had its 2 driest years in history. But 2 years into development, while our colleague was eating his breakfast, he received a notification from Marine Watch, which was the working prototype. A 5-kilometer potential slick had been identified by the last satellite pass over the east coast of Malaysia. Once this was confirmed with our experts, we got our in-country partners to highlight this to the marine authorities in Malaysia, since it looked like it would make landfall 2 days later. The Malaysian authorities sent out 2 vessels equipped with cleanup equipment, located the oil, deployed booms and dispersants, and reduced the impact of the spill. So these were the actual pictures that were sent over from the teams. And this warning helped to prevent an estimated £1.2 million worth of damage, not to mention the wider impact that would have occurred on local fishermen in the regions and the wider marine ecosystem. The system was also able to help them identify the vessel responsible for the spill. So after the story hit the press in Malaysia, I think they had more productive conversations about how it would be taken forward. So this whole experience cemented the design team's position in the planning and running of requirement capture and research work packages on the range of other international projects we had. And these ranged from detecting illegal gold mining, communications and disaster response, climate resilience, and many more. Each one of these projects taught us an increasing number of lessons about the different ways we could run these research trips. However, in almost all of these cases, we were still being brought in after the brief had been set.
Okay, so by this time we had learned a few lessons. And as Jill has said a few times now, one is that we've found that the earlier we can be involved in a project, the more value we can bring. Better still, to be involved in helping to identify the opportunity in the first place. So involving a user-centered design approach early on in an opportunity's life cycle allows us to think more strategically and critically from the outset. Our Spark workshops have become our tool for this. Secondly, by now we had a good understanding of what the best mix of design, business, and technical expertise was needed for technical innovation in this space sector. We could be more confident about the role and value of this design-led approach. And so now we've begun to productize this formula through new programs such as a space commercialization engine, big word. We also recognize that one of the barriers to satellite-based technologies being adopted in non-space sectors such as healthcare or agriculture is the difficulty in accessing these end user communities in order to learn from them and co-create with them. These user groups also need to be able to test new solutions in real contexts that are familiar to them in order to build their confidence that these solutions are actually going to solve their challenge and fit with their ways of working. And we hope our growing network of space living labs can help to address this gap. So I'm just going to go a little bit more into each of these three. Sparks. So Spark workshops are where we bring together stakeholders in a particular sector, particular region, or specific business to understand the challenges they face and define the potential opportunities for satellite technology to play a role in responding to these. These workshops are as much about sparking collaborations and ways of working as they are about sparking and nurturing ideas. In the top two pictures here, we brought a number of key players within the UK conservation sector together to map the challenges they face. And then together with our geospatial teams and connectivity teams, everyone worked to develop project proposals that might help to address these challenges, such as how might we monitor big mammals from space? How might we monitor bird colonies? How might we monitor plastic pollution in our oceans? The bottom left image is a recent Spark which looked at opportunities to support disaster response teams in the north of England, help them be more prepared and able to respond against the inevitable growing number of natural disasters that we seem to be experiencing, such as flooding and wildfires. These workshops are the seeds for new collaborations and new solutions, leading to projects in a range of sectors. In the bottom right is our Spark workshop with experts from ESA, which is the European Space Agency, and NASA, focused on what support was needed for the new wave of in-space services such as asteroid mining and lunar activities, and from which the Business in Space Growth Network resulted. More recently, a Spark workshop has kickstarted our work with organizations around environmental governance. So in this case, a large corporate who are grappling with how to reduce their environmental impact and keep abreast of the growing number of standards and regulations. They wanted to understand what opportunities there are for satellite imagery to help them with this. And now we are working with them to develop and pilot some solutions. The space commercialization engine is focused on supporting organizations using Earth observation to build proof of concepts and prototypes. Through this program of work, we work with organizations to help them validate, prototype, test, and commercialize their solution. And what's lovely is that user-centered design approaches are embedded throughout the process. For example, we recently worked with an organization called Minviro. They have a life cycle assessment tool for the extractive industry that is mining. They wanted to be able to add in Earth observation data so that they could map water scarcity and land transformation around a mine, to help businesses understand the effect on the local environment, both on current mines, old mines, but also future mines. Our team have helped to develop this, to deliver this, and now are working with them to look at where they might go next with this tool. What other markets might it be applicable to? Might a manufacturing site have similar requirements? What other data inputs might they need to address with these new markets? And our Living Labs program is there to support organizations developing satellite-enabled technologies, as I said, for non-space sectors, such as the environment, health, and agriculture. And our ambition is to have a growing network of communities, locations all around the country, where we can work with end users to understand requirements, co-create with them, develop prototypes, and then test them in those real-life environments. So, for example, in the work pictured here, we are working with ambulance trusts to think about the future digital ambulance, mapping current pain points and asking the question, what if an ambulance had access to high-speed connectivity on the go wherever they were? What might we be able to do differently? Solutions that are developed will be tested against real-life scenarios based on user research we have gathered with paramedics working in remote and rural areas. So now, we are a team that has grown from 3 to a team of 8. We're still really small, considering the number of different projects we work on. And recently, in thinking about the role of design at the Catapult today, I read the National Space Strategy, again, which was published in 2021. And I was struck by this this vision. So it says, we will build one of the most innovative and attractive space economies in the world, and the UK will grow as a space nation. And we will use space to help solve challenges at home and overseas. And through cutting edge research, we will inspire the next generation and sustain the UK's competitive edge in science technology. And for me, I think this is less a technical challenge than a creative one. We have plenty of technologies, but realizing their positive benefits requires collective social imagination. And user-centered design creates the enabling environment for this to happen, bringing people together to create productive working relationships. This involves our skills of convening collaborations, translating between different disciplines, and bridging that technical divide so you can facilitate people to work together. Before you can solve a challenge, you first need to understand what that challenge is, make sure you are solving the right problem. To do this, we bring our skills in working with end users, understanding, providing evidence, defining critical thinking to first map and define that challenge. Then bringing different perspectives again together to problem solve, create and test. And then lastly, the technologies that we have in the Catapult, they're really abstract to most people. They're hard to imagine, they're hard to convey. They're often so far in the future that people really struggle to engage with how they might touch them and their lives and what's the value to them. So through storytelling, visualizations, we are good at communicating these possibilities. And also exploring the potential features, the preferable features.
In 2019, I stepped away from the user design team and joined what was then the regional growth team. The design team had been working with this team for many years to help different locations around the UK grow their own space clusters by running workshops that brought together local stakeholders to identify priorities and challenges and create these local and regional space strategies. The long-term ambition was to create a UK space innovation ecosystem that combined the local strengths of different areas with the focus for the national space strategy. Now, partnered with the UK Space Agency, we've continued to use a design-led approach to support new areas to develop their space strategies. And as a team, we've helped the landscape grow from 3 to 17 space clusters across the UK. And on a systems level, we've looked at what the barriers and blockers might be to each of these locations working together. So employing a ground-up user-centered approach, we identify challenges around communication, access to information on funding calls, events, collaborative opportunities, as well as identifying where expertise lay in other parts of the UK. So in response to this, we built first the Space Enterprise Community, an online platform to facilitate information sharing, and a network of 12 Space Enterprise Labs. So these are locations that can be accessed by any regional business in the area, rooms decked out for hybrid meetings, events, and workshops. And this intimate knowledge of the different locations around the UK and their challenges has also led to us feeding into the UK Space Agency and other government departments to help them shape policy for the growth of the national space ecosystem. So to come back to our design ladder, I think it's fair to say that we've moved from design as styling. We've embedded design into the innovation processes the Catapult employs. We've supported our own organization and others to leverage design for business strategy, and have used design to support community transformation in a number of areas. And right now, we're working on several projects that are shaping the UK's national space strategy implementation. Now, that is not to say we do not have a long way to go and a lot more work in an ever-changing space landscape, but it's also good to appreciate how far we've come. Before I hand back to Catherine to kind of take us towards the end of the talk, I want to mention one more lesson that we learned. This came from an activity we undertook to create a design guide for innovators in the space sector. It's often been said that if you want to keep a group of designers busy, ask them to define what design is. I cannot tell you how many hours we spent coming up with our own design visualization, how many debates, arguments, and tears came from not just thinking through what we should include, but how should it be visualized? What examples should make it in? This 74-page document almost tore our team apart. And in the end, I'm not sure that more than a handful of people ever actually read it. The big takeaway for me here, apart from always avoiding any debate as to whether UX is a part of service design or service design is a part of UX, was that in the end, if we want to communicate the value of design to non-designers, don't talk about design at all. Don't talk about your amazing outputs. Identify how best you can interface with different teams. Find out what those teams or stakeholders value and outline what you can do in their own terms.
And then to echo Jill, how we differentiate ourselves as a design team within the space sector is not about our methods, tools, or terminology, but thinking about how we relate to and collaborate with others. And a recent triumph for us is the repositioning of our team amongst the technical services department. So within the Catapult, we are now considered as an equal capability with the technology teams. And as you can see, this diagram, it's brazenly egocentric here. That is because I believe we punch above our weight, acting as a conduit between these departments, connecting ideas and bringing people together with a common approach that is challenge-led rather than technology-driven. Of course, there's still work to be done and departments with whom we would like to build stronger relationships. One of the characteristics of the space sector is its excitement to explore new technologies and solutions rather than to spend time understanding what the problem might be. Where next for our team? I just thought it'd be quite nice to throw out some of these questions I think we'll be facing very soon. How do we design systems and services that are literally out of this world? What does it mean if you are manufacturing part of your goods out of orbit? How might we design sustainably for space rather than just using space as a tool to support sustainability on Earth? And how might we help organizations understand how they might respond to their sustainability challenges? There's, I'm sure, many others. And then lastly, I want to finish with a provocation. This is a quote from the Design Council's report, Systems Shifting Design. It says, we need less of the emphasis on diagnosis, analysis, and evidence-based decision-making that has been the mainstay of management practice in recent years. Instead, we need more of the propositional, the imagining, perceiving, making, and mobilizing needed to realize a new systemic opportunity. At the moment, the skills we draw upon most of those are service design, user research, facilitation, business innovation. But looking ahead, I'm wondering and thinking that perhaps this will be more likely we'll need to draw upon other areas such as futures thinking, systems innovation, in order to be equipped to address the many systemic and complex challenges that our planet faces and where we hope satellite technology can play a role. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.